What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for some more content for you guys, and us and everyone else are trying to find the right kind of variations of players to put on the pitch. Antonio Conte hasn't really been tinkering too much with his formations and his players coming into this final run into the season, where it's very important Spurs do get back to grips with things and start picking up some maximum points again. Obviously, the last two games we've been tactically outdone. We've been, not really doing well in midfield, being outnumbered in midfield. The front three players haven't seemed to be getting involved in the last three games. So we thought we'd look at different variations of formations that we can play, different variations of players we can play in different formations. So we've found 6 alternative formations we can play, and we're going to run through them today and see which ones you guys like the most. So I want to get you guys' opinions in the comment section below, what you think we should be playing for the remainder of the season, or at least for the next game.
Well, that's if Conte wants to change it, because it's obviously a very high likelihood that he's going to want to stick with the same formation we've been playing for a long time. But it is clear that over the past 2 games, it hasn't worked. Things have gone a bit stale in terms of moving the ball quickly into the front three and attacking the opposition. We've got 0 shots on target should be ringing alarm bells. And a lot of fans have been calling for Conte to either change personnel or change formation. So we thought it would be a nice mental exercise to see if what different kind of alternatives Conte may have in the final 5 games, to see what we could do in the final 5 games. And I think it's fun to look at the possible alternatives. Might be all for nothing, but if he is looking to change it, then these are the ways we think could be positive.
Yeah, so let's get into the first one. Obviously, the first one is what we have been playing over the past couple of weeks, or the majority of the season. So obviously the 3-4-3 formation with Lloris in goal, Romero, Dyer, Davis, Reguilon, Emerson at the wing-backs, Højbjerg, Bentancur in the middle with Kane, Sonny and Kulusevski up front. Yeah. So it was working to a certain point, and then first half of the Villa game, we saw Spurs come under real pressure, lucky not to concede quite a few goals that game. The next 2 games, we just no shots on target. We're not hurting the opposition at all. Being outnumbered in midfield massively. Kane's not really seeming to drop deep either in the last 2 games. Where do you see this formation really going wrong?
I think teams are coming up against us with a plan of how to stifle us. I think it even started, you could argue, in the first half against Newcastle. Obviously, we turned it around that game as well, a bit like Villa. But I think we're getting outnumbered in midfield. There's no space at the moment that we could get the ball to Højbjerg and Bentancur on the half-turn and be able to progress the ball up the pitch. They're forcing us out wide to our wing-backs. And at the moment, Emerson and Reguilon are not up to the task of allowing us to progress the ball forward. They're being put under too much pressure. They're losing the ball way too easily, and we're becoming very easy to be dispossessed. It's forcing us to go very long and direct. We're getting a few bits of joy doing that. So we're becoming a bit too predictable, and because our wide players aren't able to progress the ball up the pitch, and because we're getting outnumbered in midfield, it means that the front three are getting very little service and they're getting very little of the ball. And when they do get the ball, especially when in Harry Kane's circumstances, no space to play in, and he's got about 3 or 4 men surrounding him, and unless he breaks away from that, which is is happening very few times in the game, we're way too easy to win the ball back off, and that is where I see in possession we are struggling. Defensively, to be fair, we only conceded 1 goal in the past 2 games. Haven't really been conceding too many chances apart from a few set pieces against Brentford. So I think defensively,
the first half of the Villa game, we conceded a host of chances that game.
Yeah, but I think defensively we're doing okay. I don't think it's that bad, but I think offensively there are clearly big problems that we have to sort out, and I think it starts with our play in possession.
Yeah, and you mentioned quality out wide. This next formation, we've kept it the same formation but changed a few personnel around. If you bring it up, you see we've put Kulusevski at right wing back. The left wing back can either be Reguilon or Sessegnon. And we've put Lucas Moura out on the right wing. I would personally like to see Bergwijn there, but I think the way Conte has been using Moura kind of does point that he favours Moura more than Bergwijn. So that's how I put Lucas Moura there.
I think Lucas is more comfortable on the right as well.
Yeah, I think that too. But I think Bergwijn can play there. I don't see why not. I really don't.
For me, he's never been good when he's been there. He just doesn't look so comfortable there.
I think that because it's a bit more central as well, I think Bergwijn can thrive there. And if kind of Harry Kane's dropping deep, Bergwijn can find those spaces in behind and really hurt them, where Lucas Moura doesn't really like to find those spaces in behind. So that's why I think Bergwijn can play there. But with that formation alone, does that Kulusevski on the right, does that kind of improve us on the wings? Will that combat what we're kind of lacking at the moment?
Well, in theory, because obviously you get the ball out, if we're getting clogged up in the centre and you get the ball out wide to Kulusevski, he's more likely to find a clever pass, more likely to beat a man than Emerson. And when he gets in the final third, it makes us a lot more unpredictable, because obviously you've got the front three, but then you've also got Kulusevski coming from a wider situation, and he's got quality coming in and crossing the ball and picking out situations, much more quality than Emerson. At the moment, every time we give the ball to Emerson, the move breaks down. That's pretty much what's happening. He either loses the ball or he does a very safe pass back to a centre back, and the defence are allowed to midfield are allowed to get back in position. If we have Kulusevski there, I think it just adds a lot more unpredictability when we're going forward. Obviously, we have a bit more pace as well with Lucas in the front line, and all of a sudden, obviously, you could argue defensively. On that side, you know, we could be caught out in a few situations, but I do believe with Kulusevski on the right wing back, that could be a solution to try and make us a bit more unpredictable, a bit more inventive when we go forward. Because right now we're being stifled, and way too easily stifled. And it gives just an extra player for the opposition to think about. Right now, when Emerson's on the pitch and on the ball, you give the ball to him, they don't care. They literally do not care. They give him all the space and time in the world a lot of the time. Obviously, they know if they press him, they can win the ball off him. But when they don't press him, it's like they can just ignore him, double up on Kulusevski, ignore Emerson, and he can't hurt you. Whereas Kulusevski, it gives them something extra to think about, and obviously it can open up more space for Lucas as well.
With Kulusevski at right wing back, how much do we lose defensively in that setup, do you reckon?
I would argue not too much, because I do think he would. Obviously, I don't think he's as good in terms of tackling and being able to track back as Emerson, but I do believe he would. He's obviously a hard worker. I don't think he's going to be one who's going to not be in position or not try hard to get back in position. And I do obviously think in the wing back role that Conte plays, obviously you've got Romero backing you up on the right hand side as well. You've obviously got the centre mid in Bentancur coming over to help you. So I do believe what you would lose defensively, you would more than make up offensively by having Kulusevski there. As much as you might lose a bit defensively, I think the costs probably outweigh the benefits on that sense. That's what I would argue.
I'd agree with that. Moving on to the next one, we've changed up the formation a bit. We've gone for a 3-5-2. Obviously, I think the last time we played this was against Liverpool, potentially. Maybe we played it once after that as well.
I think it might have been, I think that Southampton game away.
That's right.
I think that might have been after.
Yeah, that's right. The 3-5-2, obviously we've got Harry Winks in there, Kulusevski right wing back. The rest is pretty standard, Kane and Sonny up top. Winks is obviously going to be everyone's reservation there, but I think Winks, whenever he's played in a middle three, he's actually been not too bad. So I wouldn't have too many reservations about playing Winks in a middle three. It's when he plays in a middle two where you start to get a bit worried. And obviously you have strength on the wing backs with Kulusevski and Reguilon, the defensive issues that you just spoke about, which you don't think it's too much of a problem.
Obviously a bit more responsibility, arguably defensively in that formation in the 3-5-2. However, then you also do have an extra centre mid. So you have more cover in the middle and more players who are able to go out to the wing to cover you as well. Obviously, you still have Romero there. And this could potentially solve the issue of us completely getting outnumbered in midfield. The reason we've put Kulusevski at the right as opposed to Emerson, I feel, is because I feel like if you have Emerson there just isn't enough talent on the pitch and firepower. I would argue if you have that formation, you kind of have Kulusevski as a de facto winger as opposed to a right wing back. You just have him play very high up the pitch. Obviously, he tracks back, but you have him pretty much as a de facto winger, a bit like Perisic or Victor Moses or something like that, how he used to play. Pretty much as a winger rather than a wing back. Obviously, you still have Reguilon on the other side, and you shouldn't. Hopefully, you would add numbers in midfield, not getting outnumbered there, so you beef up the numbers in the centre, so we can actually fight and battle, as opposed to right now where it doesn't seem like a battle right now. We're just losing every time, or the past 2 times anyway. And then when we do go forward, obviously you have Son and Kane a bit more central, and then you have Kulusevski backing him up from a right wing perspective, hopefully as well. And then obviously one of the centre mids you give a bit of license to go forward as and when. So maybe that's a way to alleviate the problems we're having in midfield.
And what role do you think Winks is going to play in that formation?
Yeah, you'd probably the deepest role, I would say, because I think Bentancur and Højbjerg are more box to box than he would be. I think Bentancur. I think you probably see Højbjerg in the most advanced position, I would argue, in this formation. I think he would be the one tasked with going forward a bit more. I think we've seen that maybe. I remember early in the season when he was partnered with Skip. Skip was a lot of the time sitting, and he was tasked with going forward. Although once Conte came in, Skip was given a bit more license. But with Skip not there, I think Højbjerg might be the one to get forward a bit more. I would say Winks would probably be the deepest one, playing long passes over the top. And then Bentancur's in the centre, maybe trying to pull the strings.
Do you think maybe Bentancur can be like the deepest lying one, putting the strings from there and picking up the ball from the midfield and basically spraying it on? Or do you think that will be the Winks role?
I would think it'd be Winks. That's why I think, because I think you want him in as much space as possible. And I feel like if he's a bit too further forward, all of a sudden midfielders can get a lot closer to him.
Then obviously if they're pressing us high up the pitch and Winks is the deepest lying player, then he won't have the most space. And maybe Bentancur might be most adjust to that part.
No, I think if you're deepest one, you always will, because you're taking it off the centre backs. And if they're pressing really high, then all the midfielders would have to drop back, not just Winks. It wouldn't be a case of and just Winks not having space. None of them would. So then the beauty is, if you're getting pressed really high, because we have 3 in the middle, you have more options to play around. So you can either choose Højbjerg or Bentancur, and you've still got the wing backs as well. Rather, right now, it feels like when we're getting pressed really high, Højbjerg has one option. It's like Bentancur, and it's not enough.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one. Another variation of the 3-5-2. This time we put Emerson at right wing back. We got Kulusevski just behind Sonny and Kane, with Højbjerg and Bentancur sitting behind him. What's your thoughts on this variation?
I'm thinking, obviously, if you don't want the defensive solidity going on the right, if you're more comfortable with Emerson, so you stick Emerson on the right, and then hopefully if you put Kulusevski a bit more central, maybe just behind the strikers, but still as a midfield option. He played that game once, I believe it was against Wolves. He came off the bench and he went in that role, and I thought he played quite well there. He's obviously played there for Parma as well. So we're thinking that if you want an option to beef up the options in midfield, but not lose maybe the defensive solidity on the right, and still keep a free going forward when we attack, that could be one way to go forward. Have Kulusevski behind Son and Kane, and obviously you keep Son and Kane in the striking positions, and obviously when we are being pressed, hopefully Kulusevski can drop back a bit and provide another option, and maybe that's one we could also consider if we need to have a 3 in the middle.
What about if you were to maybe swap? Well, sorry, I just got thrown off because I'm looking at a different formation. But if you were to actually, I'll talk about what I'm about to say in the next formation, which I'll bring up now. The next formation is completely different, 4-2-3-1. We've got here Kulusevski behind Kane and Moura on the right, Sonny on the left. But I was thinking more maybe put Kulusevski on the right, Bergwijn up top, and Kane in the number 10 position.
I'm way ahead of you.
Huh? Oh, you've got one of those already. Okay, you've got that already. All right. Well, let's bring that formation back up. If you bring that formation back up, so it's a 4-2-3-1 with Reguilon on the left, Emerson on the right, Romero, Dyer centre back positions, Bentancur, Højbjerg sitting with Moura, Kulu, Son, and Kane.
Yeah.
Does that formation have enough defensive solidity for you?
one argument for going 4 at the back is when you're a manager, as much as you have your system and your way of playing, which is, look, that's completely fair enough. And if you want to stick to that, and if you want to, say, look, by hook or by crook, we're going to play my system and we're going to try and do the best out of it because this is the way I like to play, and it's about the players adjusting to my system. That's completely reasonable. But there is another argument to say, when you are a manager, I'm not saying I agree with this, but there is, to play devil's advocate, there's an argument to say when you are a manager of a football team and you're tasked on getting results, you have to adapt to make the best of the situation that you have. So there is an argument to say that Reguilon and Emerson are not natural wing backs, they're natural fullbacks. Get them in their proper position where they're concentrating more on defending and then going forward as they are right now, and maybe that is the best way to play it. And then obviously you add forward options as we have going forward.
Wait a sec, but having said that about the defence, Eric Dyer has always played better in a back 3 than a back 4.
Correct, but he did all right in a back 4 last season.
Well, up to a certain point.
Yeah, but he still did all right. He showed he can play there.
Yeah, I mean, first half of the season he was good, but then he completely fell off second half of the season.
Yeah, but you asked him to play 5 games there. Romero can play in a back 4. He won the Copper in a back 4.
Romero fine, but I'm just worried about Dyer in that formation.
You should look, and that's a fair concern. I'm not saying it's not a fair concern. I'm just saying Dyer's better in a back 3, but he has shown that he can play in a back 2. Like, he's not complete. It's not like you play in a back 2 and that's it. Like, he's done. Like he had some good performances there. He showed he can play there.
Some, yeah.
So there is an argument to say that get Emerson and Reguilon back in their more natural positions. Just have them defending a bit more. Obviously, Bentancur and Højbjerg in a double pivot, and then you have the front line, more attacking options, but a lot more creativity, a lot more options when we do go forward, and maybe it could help us control possession a bit more and press higher up the pitch if we have those kind of forward players up there. And maybe if you take the burden off Reguilon and Emerson to attack as much as they have been, maybe you might see better versions of them over the past 5 games.
Is there still a possibility to be outnumbered in midfield playing like that?
Yes and no. I would say there is obviously a possibility because if you've got 3 centre mids, then you're going to be shutting them down. However, when you go out wide, then you have a lot more options because you've got all those forward players up there and a lot more players to play with when we go forward. Right now, we can't get the supply to the front 3, but I think if we play a 4-2-3-1, the supply to the front 3 is a lot more easier to play through when we are being pressed. But on the flip side, the downside to playing this is, we have to play a whole new formation. We've been training so hard on this other formation to just completely change it up at this late stage. It's probably not something Conte is going to want to do. Yeah. But it is something he might consider if he feels like just for these next 5 games, get players in more natural positions and it could work out. Because you saw how Arteta's changed it for the past couple of games, and he's got some joy. So maybe that's something he might consider.
And the next one is the one I was speaking about before, with Bergwijn up top, Kulu on the right, Kane in behind. And out of the 2 4-2-3-1s, I think I might favour this one, to be honest, with Kane in behind, not alleviating the need for Lucas Moura, Bergwijn up top, becoming that central figure. I actually think this one
I see
work
that
more than the other one.
I see that more of a 4-4-2 really than a 4-2-3-1.
But Kane will be dropping deep.
Yeah. He would be dropping deep, but then he's also going to get up front as well and support Bergwijn, I'd assume. Obviously, he gets Kulusevski a bit more natural in his 4-2-3 in on the right. Son obviously stays on the left. You could even do that with Bergwijn out left and Son up top as well as a central striker, potentially. That's also a possibility. So that one, obviously, it's the only formation we fit Bergwijn in.
I think Conte has said before that Sonny is not a striker and Bergwijn is a striker, hasn't he?
He said he likes he sees Bergwijn more as a number 9. But he sees Sonny more, as a more central and then as a winger as well. So that's also interesting. But yeah, that's a formation as well. If you wanted to fit a second striker alongside Harry Kane, that's possibly one way you could do it. I'm thinking maybe these are more formations with the 4 at the back. If we need to change it up, if we're behind and we really need to force the issue with like a half to go or a goal down or something, that's something he'd definitely do. But I don't see him going to a 4 at the back. I think it's very unlikely. But there is an argument for it for these last 5 games until he gets the players who are most suited to his system through the door.
All right, well, let's go through these formations one by one more time. So let's start off with the first one, which is just the standard formation. So this is Lloris in goal. This is what we're playing now. Romero, Dyer, Davis, Reguilon on the left, Emerson on the right, Bentancur, Højbjerg in the middle, Sonny, Kane and Kulusevski. So that's number 1. Number 2 is this, with the same formation with Kulusevski right wing back and Moura on the right wing. Number 3 is this, a 3-5-2 with Winks coming into the frame in a 3 in midfield. Kulusevski back at right wing back with Kane and Son up top. The next one, number 4, is a variation of the same formation with Kulusevski just behind Son and Kane. Emerson back on the right, Reguilon on the left. So that's number 4. Number 5, we moved into a 4 at the back with 4-2-3-1 with Sonny, Kulusevski and Moura behind Kane, with Emerson at right wing back, or right back, should I say. And the last one that we spoke about was the same variation with Kane and Bergwijn up top. The only one that we could really find a way to fit Bergwijn in. Bentancur and Højbjerg, the rest is the same. Looking at all of those, first of all, I want to know in the comment section below, which one would you prefer to persist with from now until the end of the season, or at least for the next game anyway? And which one would you like to see us go to?
I think for now, I think for now, I would stick the same formation and I'll put Kulusevski at right wing back and bring in Moura. That's what I would do for now. And I would see how that goes from a defensive standpoint. If we're getting too exposed, I think I'd go to a 3-5-2, move Winks in, keep Kulusevski there, and then have the 2 up top. And then maybe we have some more to play with. But I think the fact that we're so drilled in this formation right now, the fact we've been playing it for so long, I probably wouldn't just change it all up straight away after 2 games. I'll probably keep the same formation. However, I think we cannot persist with Emerson at right wing back. I think that has to change, and so I would have to move Kulusevski to right wing back, put more up top, make us a bit more unpredictable, and just see how that goes for the next game. That's what I'll do for now. But I would also for sure keep in mind, if we keep getting outnumbered in midfield and we still have no control there, move to a 3 in the middle and put Winks in. I would consider that.
The thing is, I completely agree with you that we should probably persist with the formation that we know the best and what's been working, and obviously what has been working the last few weeks anyway. But the thing is, Conte needs to recognise, obviously he does recognise what's happening in games, but he needs to be able to tweak things during games as well. Go to a 4 at the back in games if we're not doing well, you know. Go to a 3 in midfield if things aren't working during the game. I agree that probably we need to persist with the 3-4-3, but we need to be able to be fluid with these formations in game management. That's the key for me.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think he's been very stubborn at the moment, Conte. And he would argue that it's the best for the team because, you know, they have to try and find a solution in the way he tries to play. But with 5 games to go, you know, we just need the results. And however way he does it, he needs to try his best to get us in that Champions League. And that's going to mean so much for next season. And it's so important. So I completely agree. I think when things are seemingly not going our way as they have been over the past 2 games, he needs to change it quicker, and he needs to change it. He needs to throw a bit more caution to the wind as he has been over the past 2 games, because I think he's been a bit too conservative and a bit too stubborn over the past 2 games. That's what I'll argue.
Yeah, I completely agree. So that is our 2 cents on the different variations, the alternative formations that Spurs can deploy from now to the end of the season. I want to know your opinions in the comment section below, your thoughts on all different formations and which one would you prefer us to persist with. Let me know in the comment section below. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.